I'm going to be interviewing Blanton. Hi, you can.
I thought it was interesting. I don't get to just sit up here and talk, but let me pause for a second. Isn't this just being with these guys and with with each other? Honestly, isn't this awesome? Just listening. I was in here. I just wanted to stay here. I've got my schedule's booked completely. I just want to stay here and listen to y'all talk about worship and leading people into the presence of God. Isn't that awesome? I mean, way to go, Owen and James Mark and y'all.
Everybody.
Yeah, so glad y'all are here. We could not do this conference without you.
Oh,
just saying.
Thanks, Blanton.
I mean, there would be no reason,
Oh, thanks. So Blanton, my first question for you is, why is your job? So picture Blanton for the sake of this thing, because Blanton does like everything in the world, and he's brilliant, y'all, literally. So picture Blanton just being your front of house guy for the sake of today. So Blanton, tell us, why is your job important?
Actually, I was gonna say, the reason that we're doing this interview is so that I don't just go off and say whatever. But anyway, okay. So as we were talking, I just said to Owen, I was like, hey, let's come up with questions so that I can prepare answers and not say something stupid. I'm sure it'll happen anyway. But so the first thing that came to mind was just that I would say, isn't it obvious? Drop mic. That's why.
Literally, we're sitting in my office, and I was like, why do you think your job's important? And he goes, isn't it obvious?
Sorry.
Yes, I don't know.
That wasn't the right answer, by the way. I mean, all of y'all, if anyone knows, why it's important to have a sound person, because you can't lead and do sound at the same time, right? I mean, generally it can't happen. So unless you're in life group, I guess. So, I think what came out of us talking about that and like why it's important is kind of a little phrase, which was, "I'm the band member in the back." Kind of, I'm here. I'm so blessed to be a part of Antioch. I've been here for, let's see, it'll be 15 years in January. So it's been awesome, honestly. I have led worship.
He's a great voice.
Thanks. Jumping in there. I've led worship. I know what it's like. And I guess I feel like, golly, it's the late afternoon. I'm sorry. What was I saying? Okay, I'm the band member, not on the stage. Oh my gosh. This is why they don't let me up in front of people to talk. I'm sorry. What was that? What was I? This is really awkward. Sorry, guys.
Okay.
I'm okay with it though. If you're okay with it.
I was asking, why is your job important? What?
Yeah, I got into it. Isn't it obvious?
Well, even it isn't it obvious. Okay, next question.
Great point. I mean, honestly, I love to worship. My heart really engages with music. I love music. So, I mean, I think any band member would basically say the same thing. So that's honestly, and as we were trying to figure out, like, okay, what makes up a good sound person, we kind of went through some things. I mean, I love worship. I love music, and that's a huge part of what doing sound is like. And that's sort of why, if you can find someone that is really a band member, what's funny is I have so many people who are drummers or bassists, and who are just like, hey, how do you do that thing? And then they kind of get sucked into the sound. It's really helpful to, as a sound person, to feel like, and James, Mark, and Owen do a great job of this, to feel like I am part of the band. I'm not like I've said in the past, like the longest distance is sometimes from the soundboard to the stage. I don't know not necessarily in this church, but I've done sound in other churches where it just, there's this tension that sometimes develops. I don't know if we're still talking about this question, but anyway, there's a tension that develops, and you recognize it even as like a thinker, not a feeler. I'm like, man, something's going on here, and I feel like, okay, I'm going to take it upon myself because we're all in this together. We're doing this together. We're worshiping God. We're a unified team. I'm going to go up there and I'm going to say, when we would listen to Wedges, and I'd go up and listen, put my head where that person's head is and like say, okay, I hear what you're hearing kind of thing, and try to get inside in people's shoes, to just, so as we were talking through what's important, aspects of sound people, I think I kind of came up with, you need 50% of this and 50% of this. So bear with me here. So musician and technical, really. It's really helpful for a sound person. It's obvious, but I'm saying it. To have a sound person who is a musician. And I've trained sound people who appreciate music, or maybe who are the DJ, kind of like music, but it's not quite the same as if they actually play an instrument or something like that. You know what I'm talking about. And then obviously the technical, if they're interested in technical stuff, obviously they need to have that aspect. But the more the point is just being a musician and having the technical stuff. I think I'd say 50-50, kind of like serving and leading. Because really, like I said, the initiating those conversations that are just like, hey guys, what's going on? I feel like something's going on here. It's not always bad. It's just like, hey, what's the roadmap to this, song? You would tell all your band members what the roadmap is, hopefully. So, just saying like, I'm initiating because I don't know. What's the roadmap? Where's the drop chorus? That kind of stuff. As a semi-musician, I can talk about that kind of stuff, right? So it's helpful to communicate in those terms like I'm a band member, right? So I think sometimes you have the sound person who's like, they're super helpful, they're awesome, but it's just like they won't, I don't know how to say it, like push the boundary a little bit, like let's make it loud, or let's like, that electric guitar solo is awesome. Let's, jam it to 10. There's got to be some passion in there, not just like, what I'm saying? Like like, okay, I'll just push that up a little bit. I don't know what I'm saying. We're passionate people, so it's like you really need that, and you need that kind of leader aspect to really say like, hey, I need this communication. Or one thing that I've had to learn over, it seems like it's taken forever, is like how to communicate deadlines. Because in production, I kind of say that I'm like the small part of the funnel. We have the leaders who come up with the big ideas and the concepts, and we're going to have this awesome thing. And then eventually, at a certain time, someone has to press a button so that everybody is aware of what just happened, right? Like, we made this awesome video, and, they got all the sound right, and they shot all the B-roll and all that stuff. They edited it down, blah, 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 blah. Eventually, someone's going to set up, the video clip and give you the cue, and you're going to have to hit the button. And if all that work happens and I don't hit the button at the right time, distraction happens, or we just don't get, what we need to hear. So I'm the small part of the funnel. So respect me. I don't know how to say it. I'm not saying people don't. I'm just saying reminder. I don't know how to say it.
Okay, so here's some things I hear you saying, B.
So that was like, if anybody's keeping tally of stupid things I'm saying, that might be one right there.
No, awesome thing you're saying. Okay. So I hear you saying if you're looking for a sound person, the things that you're looking for are uh, a balance of musicianship, but also technical knowledge is one thing that you're looking for, and then also this balance of willingness to serve, but also willingness to take initiative or to to ask good questions or
Yeah,
push things along.
I think really a lot of the people who want to kind of serve in terms of sound are kind of service oriented, helps, whatever you want to call it. And so I have to, especially for the younger sound dudes who are maybe there's not so much a culture of like, okay, we're gonna of communication just because it hasn't been there or something like that, whatever. I have to tell my sound people like, hey, you want to do the best you can, so communicate and initiate. We have things that we need from people, and so we need to be able to say, hey, I need a stage plot. Hey, Owen, can you get me the stage plot by this time so I can set up, etc. Hey, Owen, can you get me the channel list? Or the band lineup is what I call it, because it's just like Owen singing, MD, keys, tracks. And then it might say what he's plugging into. He's got an interface, or he's got a Nord or whatever. So just the communication. So it's important for those people who are kind of like, oh, I want to just help as much as possible, to be able to initiate and say like, hey guys, I need this just to do my job well.
Hey, so I think what you just brought up is a great, really practical thing that I think will help people. Go through and share a little bit of what are some communication rhythms that we have in place of things like that stage plot or that band lineup that are helpful things for you to know before Sunday at 7 a.m.
Let's see. Okay, so a couple things that we make sure we external processor here. I know. Oh geez. Okay. Well, I need to think it before I say it. Okay. Sunday morning, we have a rhythm that there are a lot of things already in place that we just sort of assume. We have meetings where we talk about, we have a weekly meeting where we talk about like, okay, how did last week go? And we all get to, blame each other for whatever. Not really. Or give each other a high five occasionally.
High fives.
Okay,
that's usually right.
Yeah. No, seriously. It's great. I love the debrief, honestly, because it just helps us to be clear about like, oh yeah, that was a bummer when that happened, but it just helps so that it doesn't have to happen again. And then we kind of get a look forward to the next Sunday so this is on Tuesday, so and we really, if there's something big happening sound-wise, big meaning kind of outside the paradigm of what our typical band setup is, then it'll at least be on Tuesday, if not before. Like we're gonna have a string quartet or a choir, or I don't know what. World Mandate.
Cello this Sunday, don't forget.
A cello. Okay, yeah. See, I got that email a week or so ago, so that's great. So anything outside that paradigm is communicated, just heads up, As a sound person, I can't speak for all sound persons, but like I generally like heads up on things that are kind of outside my system. Then on Thursday, we have a production run-through, which is great because we can look at, it gives deadlines really for, video delivery. Like, okay, we're done with the video, we're going to watch it, or other things. What else do we do there? We talk through the production order. So we have the run sheet, production order, whatever you want to call it. And, it's like all the things that we need to do. We have kind of a grid, like here's the lineup and then what we're going to do for light, sound, video, whatever. And what are all the cues we need to hit and so forth. So we also band stage plot. Anybody know what a stage plot is? All right. I mean, it's basically just like a graphical representation from above of who's standing where, So they do have, Planning Center has it. I mean, you just put little boxes. If you have a vocalist, you just put their little box right where they're going to stand, right? Easy. But hey, it's a communication piece I need to be aware of, you know. And then the band lineup is like really all of the stuff that, what are we plugging in? What is each person doing? You know, Owen has like 10 things after his name because he's like all these things, but James Mark's just standing up there with a guitar. I don't know. So
Don't you forget it.
that's right. At the front, though. Anyway. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, a great thing. Talk a little bit about about the day of, kind of how, so we show up on Sunday, and talk through from when you arrive through when the service starts. What are helpful things that either we do on a Sunday morning, or helpful things to know as you get there or before you get there, things like that. So kind of you show up at X time, service starts
Feels
at X
like
time.
X time, I'm telling
Oh
you.
my gosh.
So 7 a.m. is usually when we show up. It's super helpful to have a rehearsal so that all my settings are lined up. Everything is, like it needs to be. Everybody can hear what they need to hear. I've heard the music. I've heard the new song. I've put it into Pro Presenter, whatever. So first of all, rehearsal is great because it lets me, here's something I'd recommend for your sound people is being able to do what's called a virtual sound check. Does anybody know what that is? Virtual sound check? Awesome. Okay. Basically, multi-track recording. Anyone know? Okay. Well, yeah, obviously. Sorry. Number 2 on the stupid things. Okay. So it's basically just the band playing into a hard disk recorder, essentially. And then what I can do is I can basically play that into my console, and I can tweak whatever I need to. So that is awesome for training, I can tell you that, because your band members don't want to, like, play drums for an hour while we are like, okay, what's the difference between compressed and not compressed kick drum and all that kind of stuff. You, as a sound person, you have to learn things by just like, okay, I turn this knob, what happens? What is it? What am I hearing, kind of thing. So that is a huge training tool. Sometimes when we do outside events, I'll multi-track, so then I can play it back, and I can hear. I hear a bunch of things when it's happening and during the rehearsal, and I want to be able to be like, okay, what are the main things I need to tweak before we get back into the real thing, since the band isn't up there. So 7 a.m., I show up because we have 4 services, so I have a sound person who runs it for me, and I usually run the rehearsal. And basically, it's my job as a sound person to get the sound check rolling. So that's another thing about the initiating deal is I want to drive it, and it's my job to get it done and get all I need. Especially if there's been a rehearsal, it's super easy. But I can drive it forward. I can tell worship leader what I need. I'm sure they appreciate it because it's like we're getting stuff done so we can make music, right? And there are things on the console I need to change, before we start talking about monitors. If we don't do a sound check and then we are like, hey, I can't hear so-and-so, I'm at the console like, I haven't heard that yet, I haven't heard. So really for worship leaders, it's helpful to kind of be aware that the sound person drives that, and then like have the band ready to do it. So I do sound check almost the same way every time. It helps both of us to do it well. So I hope I'm not just repeating things but whenever I do sound check, I want to hear it the loudest that it's going to get, right? Or I should say not the loudest it can get, but just like the loudest it's going to be. So I'll do drums. Okay, let me hear kick, hat, and snare. If anyone's doodling, I just mute them. I mean, we have that understanding that like, hey, we don't do that. That's a waste of both of our times. You know what it's like when you have to be like electric guitarist. Chill out. A certain electric guitarist who is not here right now. Anyway.
Oh, it's universal.
Okay.
Electric guitarists don't know how to stop playing. No
So,
offense.
I mean,
Repent if that's any of you.
they love the music. What can you say? I don't know. Anyway, so the point is, I need to hear kick, hat, and snare, and I don't need doodling. Sorry, muting now. We talk about that stuff. You know, it's like, hey, would you mind not doodling, that kind of thing. But then after it happens a couple times, you're like, muted. They get the message. They're like, oh, yeah, no doodling. Okay, cool. So kick, hat, and snare. I need to hear, you know, the most recognizable sounds in rock and roll, arguably, besides electric guitar, I guess, is kick and snare. They need to sound right for people. It's like you need to give people what they're expecting, or it's gonna be like they're gonna be like, what is wrong with this sound? That's just what it comes down to. So make it sound good, or do your best. Kick, hat, and snare. That's why I do it. Forget the toms. We don't need that right now. I just want to hear kick, hat, and snare. You know, whoever's been through a sound check where it's like kick drum for 15 minutes. That sucks, doesn't it? I'm sorry. That stinks, doesn't it? Whatever. For the drummer, too. So that's why we do kick, hat, and snare. Then we can move on to bass. Then I have them do this. So, you know, it's like play a little bit. I know that's not necessarily how they're going to play it. So then I say, okay, I need drums and bass together on a big chorus. So usually it's the first song, right? So give me, you know, This Is Amazing Grace, chorus. Drummer counts in. We get drums and bass. And then I can really look at like what the levels really look like. Then we move on to electric guitar, keys. Then we'll move on to the front line. When I do vocals, the band members need to be warmed up because I'm going to ask. I need you to be loud, big chorus, okay, on whatever song you're leading. And on our run sheet, it says who's leading. And Owen does an amazing job facilitating that because it's always awkward as a vocalist if you're just singing just a cappella in front of everything, the big notes, right? That's awkward. So it's like provide a little keys, that's fine, you know, or acoustic guitar or something like that. So anyway, we do vocals. Then once I have all my levels, then I'm like, okay, I'm good. And we check click and tracks and all that stuff. So is that something people are invited to today or no? What? The sound check thing? We did that one time. You're probably not that. You'd probably rather have a nap, I would imagine, but that's okay. Anyway, if you want to come, that's great. So that's kind of, so we try to finish that within like 15, 20 minutes max. And then you get to run through all your transitions and do all your stuff. And then what we'll do is then they'll give me some time to do, like, we need to check video, make sure it works. We write down everything. So it's like, okay, we're going to play that video. Where does the fader need to be? Write that down on the run sheet. I try to never, ever remember anything because you're going to forget it. It's just the way it goes. So write everything down. I'll even write down, like, where the knob needs to be for Don speaking versus JD, which is vastly different. You know? Don's like this, and JD's like this. So obviously there's a big difference. And I want JD to walk up and it not be distorting, but it's going to sound in your face. And Don, I want him to not be like, hey, everybody, you know, and then suddenly you can hear, then suddenly we turn up the knob. We know what's going to happen, so just write it down and turn up the knob, right?
So what I hear you saying is it's kind of like and this is what kind of the rhythm we've established is that there's like your time, our time, and then your time again is kind of how we ran that pre-service. So we have a lot of times what you'll actually say to us is like, okay, I'm done back here. It's yours. You can take it. And so we know like you're good to go from a gain structure perspective, from like you feel good on levels of everything. And we know we're not rehearsing anything. We're not going through arrangements of anything. We're not trying to work out transitions or anything like that until he feels like things are set. Then we're good. We'll run things. We'll change monitors, do all of that. and then we'll hand it back to say, hey, B, do you need anything from us? And so it is kind of a communication dance a little bit of, I'm good. Do you need anything? No, I'm good. Keep going, or things like that. So.
Yeah. So we'll do the first song after sound check, and then we'll just stop and say, what we do all our monitor mixing at the back. And so we'll stop after the first song and just say, okay, let's go down the line, all 7 mixes, and just tweak things that need to be tweaked. Now, I've already, at rehearsal, I have like built the mixes to some degree. I know kind of what different instrumentalists want versus even like what different people playing those instruments want. It's not super complicated. I mean, you just kind of get a system and go with it. Plus, with digital these days, it's like hit recall. You're halfway there, right? So.
Okay, last question. This is a 2-part question. Okay, first part is, what do we do that makes your job easier? And the second is, what do we do that makes your job even more easier? Just kidding. What do we do that makes your job harder? That was the other part. Okay.
Actually, that answer is on this sheet right here. Okay. Easier. Thank you, Johanna. All right. What makes my job? What do you all do that makes my job easier? First of all, communicating with me like I'm a member of the band. So much appreciation there.
What does that mean to you? Like pretend like you play the drums, or like, you know what I mean?
Well, I'm not sure.
Like, how does that play out?
It happens so naturally now. It's just hard to step outside of that.
The dream.
Way to go. I know when I don't feel like I'm a member of the band.
Yeah,
just okay.
That's awful.
Let's see. I don't. It just sounds bad. So it's like
we never do these things, right? So just
never.
At some other church, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm just imagining how this. No, seriously, really.
You can rat us out. It's fine.
I would say like it's if I'm being talked at, like, hey, we need this fixed right now. That's a bummer, you know. It's like how if your electric guitarist like messes up or like they're out of tune. You know, you just expect them to tune it, and then maybe you will have a conversation afterwards, like, dude, what's wrong with, why aren't you in tune? Don't you have a tuning pedal or something? Or what, you know, I don't, why, it's a bummer for somebody, as a musician, you're like, why'd you miss that note? Hey, band, did y'all hear that? That's ridiculous. Don't ever do that. That is just terrible communication, isn't it?
We don't do that. Just making sure, right?
But it can come things can be said that come across that way to a sound person, you know? It's like, and I appreciate you talked earlier about the whole deal of like sound levels and all that. I mean, when people come up to me and they're like, it's really too loud, you know, I don't just say like, it's his fault. But I basically kind of give the spiel, you know, like we have a sound meter, we watch it because we know it's subjective. And we're doing this under authority, you know. This is the level that our pastors have agreed that is engaging. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just the conversation could go several ways at that point. But I feel kind of covered and taken care of. I'm not just like, you know, I don't get an email from Jimmy that's like, dude, why are you doing this kind of thing, or whatever, you know. But if he comes back and he says, I think he came back at the 5 p.m. actually, and he was like, hey, it seems a little loud, and I was like, our meters pretty much, I think it was just because the room was a little more empty and, you know, whatever. So, but I was like, hey, we'll turn it down. Great, no problem. So, speaking to me like a member of the band, I don't know. It's just the same respect that you would have for your team, really, you know. You'd communicate beforehand. You would give them the materials they need to succeed. You would involve them in the envisioning process. I love that. These guys are awesome at that. All that stuff. It's great to feel like you're a member of the team and not just the lone guy back there, you know. and I'm typically not running sound. I'm directing production, so I'm talking about involving the production team is what I'm saying. You know.